All right. Looks like we are live. Hopefully you guys can hear me. Let me see if this is all working now. I'm getting better at this, I promise, guys. I know I look like a complete amateur trying to figure out how to do this live streaming thing, but every time I learn a little bit more, and before you know it, I'll actually know what the heck I'm doing. But for now, we're just going to keep the one camera and my audio, and I think that's going to be good. So we'll wait for a little bit more of you guys to show up. I know there's 2 of you watching now. Just kind of want to get on here. I just did a long review video for all the syndicate members, or at least the ones that submitted to the last opportunity. So we had a lot of cool, awesome submissions for the licensing opportunity we have going on right now. Unfortunately, I thought we'd get all 24 by today, but we actually only got 21 completed. I needed 5 more, and we only accepted 1 more onto the album. So we have 4 more we got to do. So unfortunately, I got to extend the deadline to get really high quality ones. I'm kind of a stickler with these opportunities because, I mean, obviously I'm paying, so it's my money. I got to be really picky about it. But also, as I was explaining in the video, part of the deal is if you're going to be making music for the licensing industry, you might as well be making tracks that can get used for long periods of time in a show, okay? So there's a lot of techniques and skills that you have to kind of put in your tool belt to make sure that when you're composing, your tracks don't sound like they're on a loop and they're just playing, you know, one bar, and they're just kind of doing the same thing over and over again. You really have to start getting a little bit more sophisticated with your composing style and technique, also using the right samples, mixing and mastering techniques. All that stuff goes without saying. But one of the biggest things that I am starting to realize, and it's kind of funny because I never really, it wasn't crystallized and it wasn't clear to me until I started doing stuff with the syndicate members, is that there's kind of like 2 approaches to producing. And most of us as producers have been kind of in the pop rock world most of our careers, where, you know, you make a chord progression, you make a lead that's catchy, and you make a cool beat underneath it. And that's kind of where we've normally stuck when we are producing music. And that's kind of because we want to make catchy songs that can climb charts, that can go viral, that, you know, the consumer, whatever, general public will like. However, in TV, film, and in production music, that's not really what you're doing here. The actual point is not to make a catchy song that, you know, gets stuck in people's head. The purpose is actually to serve a particular need, right? And sometimes that need is actually to sit in the background of a particular TV show. So one of the common things that I keep finding myself repeating a lot is, as we go through these minimal opportunities that I'm offering the group, a lot of the tracks that get submitted, they're great, they sound awesome, but they're so catchy and so big that they don't really stand, or they don't really sit well as background cues that could sit as more atmosphere, right? Or that supports maybe an emotional tone that needs to be set for a particular scene. Because you got to realize, in TV, especially reality shows, which is a lot of the stuff that we're kind of submitting for right now, there is a lot of dialogue happening in the foreground, right? There's contestants, there's judges, there's people, actors, voiceover, right? There's just a whole bunch of talking going on in the foreground. Now, the music needs to be there just to set the tone for, do we feel uneasiness? Do we feel tension? Are we excited? Is there a battle coming? Is there confrontation coming? Are we joyful? Do we just, like, you know, defeat the odds and conquer something, right? There's a wide range of emotions that we have to nail with the music that we produce. So the name of the game is not about creating a catchy little hooky melody or a chord progression that gets stuck in your head. That's not really what we're doing, right? We don't want to steal the attention away from the foreground, which is all the actors. We want to sit comfortably in the background and just support more of an atmosphere for what's happening in the foreground. So it's kind of a theme that I'm seeing a lot as we progress with the syndicate and as we do more and more opportunities, that it's really about kind of reorienting yourself as a producer and not seeing yourself as the star of the show, of really trying to make the music really stand out and really have it shine in a sort of way that you've probably been producing your entire career up until this point. It's thinking about it in a completely different way. So hopefully that makes sense to you guys. But anyways, that was just what I wanted to start off this stream with, that I really actually want to just do kind of more of a live Q&A If you guys have some questions about anything with the TV film licensing business, maybe something particular to your particular career, your particular situation, what's been going on. I had a really great chat. By the way, if you have a question, just put it in the chat and I'll get to it as soon as I can. So, don't be shy. Just try to be as specific as possible. Try not to be general. Try not to be vague. Try to get to specifics, and that'll help me give you a more specific answer. The more vague your question is, the more I don't really know what you're trying to get at, what your angle is, or what you really want to get out of your question. So, yeah. If you got a question about BMI and ASCAP, again, let me know what the question is. Try to be specific. Let me know what you're trying to get at. Again, everything that I say on this channel and all my videos, a lot of it's opinion, because it's basically my career that I'm teaching you about. Like, that's where I'm getting all my sourced information. So if it worked for me, I'll tell you that it worked for me. If it didn't work for me, I'll tell you it didn't work for me, okay? I'm by and far not the end-all, be-all of the TV, film, music licensing business. There are plenty of people that have different opinions on how to go for it, so I always want to put that disclaimer out that if I give you a piece of advice or a direction, I'm telling you these things because either it's worked for me and I've seen it work for me, or somebody I know, or I feel like it doesn't work for people that are in this business, or for myself. So just keep that in mind as we go forward. So register your tracks before submitting for a placement. That's a specific question, but you could actually even get more specific with that. So you're talking about registering with the Library of Congress. You're talking about registering with BMI ASCAP. Again, get your question all the way down to a very specific question, and I can really help you out there. So. Publishing, I'm a member of ASCAP. I want to go on BMI. Okay, again, not a question. If you want to go on BMI, you should go on BMI, but you got to ask me a specific question and I can answer it. What DAW do I use? I use Logic Pro 10. I was a very late comer to upgrading. I was on Logic Pro 9 probably for a full year after Logic Pro 10 was released. It took me a long time to just kick myself in the butt and just do it, because I don't know. Guess I'm a creature of old habits, and I liked how Logic 9 was. I liked the outline of it. I liked the format of it. So I just liked working with it, and I was afraid of updating to the new one and having to relearn things. And you know how it is. Like, you get a new program, and it's like, nothing's where it used to be. And I was really just delaying the inevitable of, like, at some point you're going to have to do it. And I did finally. I think it was because I had a project I was mixing for somebody else, and they only had Logic Pro 10, and I had to get their session in order to mix their track. And so I was like, all right, screw it. This is the time I'm going to update. So I finally updated. So, okay, here we go. Should you register your tracks with a PRO before submitting to a placement? Most of the time, no. If you're submitting for a library, they're going to take care of that. If you're sort of getting a direct placement with, let's say, a contact you have who you're splitting publishing with, or maybe you're taking a vast majority of the publishing, yeah, you want to make sure that you take that, get that covered. But by far, the more common situation that happens is a library will have their own publishing company, and they'll take care of registering it. Your job is to log in online to BMI or ASCAP, whoever you're affiliated with, maybe a month or two afterwards. Just double check and make sure that those tracks are showing up under your name and that they're not getting lost, or worse, let's say you log in and you find out there's some other writer being associated with you, right? You were told that you were getting 100% of your writers and some other name shows up. I've heard of this happening. You want to make sure that there's no, like, silent partner that sneaks up and starts taking part of your writer share when they didn't write with you. If you're the only writer, you should be taking that 100% writer share. How long did it take for me to get my first placement, and what was it? The first placement I actually got was on a Lifetime movie with starring Kirstie Alley. I can't remember what it was called now, but it was actually through a band that I was with. I think that was the one that we got paid 14 cents on when we finally got a royalty check. It was laughable. It was funny. And it was basically, the placement was one of our songs was playing on the radio of the main character in the show. So this was way back in, I don't even remember, 2009, 2008, 2009, somewhere around there. Might have been after that. So it was exciting. You know, we saw the scene and we saw our music playing, but it didn't pay us barely any royalties. So it was a little bit of a wake-up call for me. Part of the reason why I put my channel together is to kind of like prepare you guys for that, because you'll have that day. If you haven't gotten your first royalty check, anybody who's in this business who does this full-time, they'll tell you that first royalty check, it's like a gut punch. It just hits you right in the gut, and it doesn't feel that great because you don't make a lot in the beginning. But you got to stick with it long enough, and if you're consistent and you create high quality music, they will grow. But that was the first one I had. Would it be a good idea to call the libraries as opposed to just emailing them? I feel like that can take forever, or they just don't like, even get around to it. You know, you can. I am not a cold calling person. I know that some people are more cold calling. And I think I have pretty decent social skills. I'm pretty great at talking to people. I can sell myself. I can sell my music to most people. You know, again, this is one of those things where I'm saying, yes, you probably could do a cold calling thing where you're calling and saying, hey, I'm a, producer. I'd like to talk to you guys about my music, and I'd like to find the best way to submit it to you. Just for myself, again, I have not ever done that in my career. I have definitely had warm leads where somebody says, hey, I'm going to pass you off to this guy, call him up, he wants to hear from you, and that's not so much of a cold call. But in my career, I've followed their directions. Most libraries will tell you to submit, email here, upload here. They're digital these days, right? They don't necessarily want to be inundated with dozens and dozens of calls of just, anybody taking up their time. Maybe some of them do. Again, this isn't a golden rule, but most libraries, if you look at their websites, they have a submission process and they want you to follow that. So if you're not seeing the results you want, you're not getting a lot of callbacks, you're not getting a lot of email responses, it might be something with your music, right? You might have to go do an honest assessment about where you are with your production quality. Maybe you're not on par with what they currently have in their catalog. Got to get some more honest feedback for yourself to make sure that you are on par. Other times, I was just talking to one of the producers that I had done an interview with. He was not seeing the results yet either, and I said, "Hey, sometimes it's just luck." And he was wondering about that. Is it sometimes you got to be at the right place at the right time? I'm like, absolutely. Welcome to planet Earth, right? There's nothing without a little bit of luck, right? Sometimes there are just seasons where certain libraries, like, they're booked. They got tons of writers. They got tons of stuff going on. They don't need anybody new. And so maybe you're in a bad place with them at that moment. Maybe their doors are closed, their books are already filled up, and they don't need anybody. What are you going to do? Sit around and feel sorry for yourself, feel bad about it, or just move on, right? Just go find another company. There's tons of companies out there that are looking for new music. So just don't give up, keep at it. If you need to maybe go back to the drawing board and increase your production quality, increase your producing, mixing, or mastering skills, whatever it is, do the work, do whatever it is. And you should never stop trying to improve, no matter how good you are. If I thought that I was there and established and my tracks couldn't get better, I'd only have one place to go, and that'd be downhill. So I have a lot more uphill to go, right? I never plan on going downhill. I plan on always improving and doing a lot of things with my music to always go in a better direction and not ever feel like I'm there, I'm good, I don't need to learn anything, I don't have to add new sounds, I don't have to get better at anything. I can always be improving upon something, and so can you guys, for sure, no matter how good you are. You can't be a member of both. That is true as a writer. So for BMI and ASCAP, CSAC, yes, you cannot be a writer with both. You, however, can have multiple publishing companies. So if you want to have a publishing company with ASCAP and a publishing company with BMI, you can do that. I do that myself for my publishing company. So you can do that as a publisher, but not as a writer. Yes, you have to choose one or the other. And if you want to switch, you got to switch the right way, which means you got to get into their little, they have a little window opportunity area for you to actually make that switch. You got to fill out a certain document. So call up your PRO, ask them when your renewal period or your exit date could be, and they'll tell you, they'll direct you to all the forms, and they'll do all that for you. Here's another question. If you had a track that was used by a music supervisor, non-exclusively, can I sign that track to an exclusive dealer later? You can, but you got to let the exclusive dealer aware of that. You got to let them know that. So the question is, if you sign a non-exclusive track to, one company, and then at some point there's an exclusive library that wants to use that track, can you go ahead and take it, even though it's been exclusively or non-exclusively licensed already? Can you take it to an exclusive outlet? I've been able to do that, but you better let them know that, okay? You don't want to like have a situation where they're asking for exclusive music and you just give them some music and you don't tell them, by the way, this is in another library right now, okay? It was non-exclusively licensed, but now it's exclusive with you. A lot of factors can come into play there. How long ago was it non-exclusively licensed? How big is that library? There's a lot of things that they're going to consider. Sometimes, probably most of the time, 60% of the time, they're going to say no. They're going to say, no, we want music that's only exclusively ready for us. So we want you to create brand new original music that only we have access to. That keeps our catalog nice and high value. We don't want stuff that people could, you know, slip through the cracks and find somewhere else. But definitely talk to them first. Ask them, just say, hey, we have, you know, these 10 tracks from a non-exclusive one. Will you guys take though, even though these are not exclusively tied to you forever? Now they can be exclusively tied to you. Just tell them. A lot of times, you never know. You just got to ask them what their rule is for that kind of stuff. You're welcome for the awesome videos, man. I'm glad you guys are enjoying them. I like making them. So all this knowledge was just swirling in my head for almost a decade, and I never did anything with it. And I started realizing that, like, I got to start just putting this stuff out there for whatever it's worth. I hope some of you guys, or most of you, are at least taking this knowledge and doing something with it. I hope this isn't just a show and it's just fun to watch. I really hope that when you're done with these Q&A videos and you're done with the videos that I put up every week, you're going into your studio and doing something, right? Actually making music, actually going out and submitting to libraries and starting to build up a catalog. You know, I am not doing this for my health or for your health. I really want to see great results from you guys, and I want to hear about those awesome results. Obviously, I want to hear you guys telling me that you're doing things with this information. So that'd be the best way. Like, if you're thankful for all these videos and you like what I'm doing, the best way you can get me back is just take the knowledge, go do great things, get placements, start building up royalties in your catalog, and hit me up. Send me an email, make a video, let me know about it. That's what I'm looking for from you guys, okay? That's all I want. I just want to know that this stuff is really resonating with you and it's actually getting results. I don't really care. I shouldn't say that. I'm glad you guys get motivated and you feel great about what I'm doing. That's not as nearly as important to me, though, as results, right? I need to see real results, and I have seen some great results, but I want to see even more from you guys, and that lets me know that how I'm teaching is actually getting through. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. So keep up the hard work. Let's see. Yeah, if you missed a question, man, just you can watch the replay of this. This one will be replayed, so you can watch that. How many templates do I work from, and how many genres do I try to cover? Man, templates. I've got dozens and dozens, because I don't just do like a rock template or a pop template, but I'll do like adult contemporary templates, or I'll do what was the last rock ones I did? I did like sort of an industrial, like a modern 9 Inch Nails song I did not too long ago, and that's now a template because I loved the drums, the kind of bass guitar thing that I had. I just had a lot of cool stuff happening in that song, so I actually just saved that as, I think I called it like a modern 9 Inch Nails or metal 9 Inch Nails or something like that. So every time I stumble across a really cool, interesting sound, I'll actually create a template from that particular track, and then I can always go back to that later. So if there's an opportunity that's calling for, hey, we want a kind of cool industrial, cinematic, electronic rock thing, I got it, right? It's right there. So I don't limit myself to just having a genre template. I'll actually have specific sound or song templates. So I don't know how many I have at this point, at least over 50. I mean, I have tons of these things that just, as soon as I find a new sound and a new set of instruments that I love working with, I save it as a template, even if I never use it. A lot of the templates I've never used twice, but I like to have them there because you never know, maybe next month I'll need something like that. So be very like liberal with how many templates you set up. You'll find that it's very useful moving forward. Have I have any experience with SongTrader? I have personally not. I've been reading a lot about them. They're getting a lot of press and a lot of notoriety right now. I think they're out in Santa Monica or whatever. But again, the only thing that I have about these large companies that like have thousands of writers that are submitting to them is your chances of building up high quality relationships just goes down exponentially. They can definitely, and I know they do get placements. And I know they're now breaking out into like restaurants, and they're kind of doing more public licensing and not just TV and internet video licensing and stuff like that. So I know they definitely have a future, a bright future in front of them. Hopefully, you never know. But I think that they're going to be doing some great things because they're obviously kind of creating a new model for licensing that's not the traditional model. So I like that they're challenging the system and they're trying new things. However, with a large catalog like that, where you have, you know, thousands of writers submitting to it, the chances of any client coming in and finding you and wanting to use you go down. Also, just from my experience in this business, again, if I didn't have personal relationships where people were calling me, you know, on a weekly basis and saying, Jesse, we need music for this. Are you available for that? I wouldn't have a career, right? You got to have personal relationships. You got to get on the phone with people. You got to have people that know who you are, know you by name. You know, you've met with them maybe once or twice. You don't want to have just all of these, like, hey, they call them like cattle calls, where they put out a call for music and 1,000 writers sends music to them. You know, it's a way to get started. I'm not going to knock that. It's definitely a way to get your music out there. But as far as building those relationships that are going to last for years and years and years, large companies like that, I wouldn't put all my eggs in that basket. I'm not saying steer clear of them and don't work with them, but I wouldn't make that my primary focus for how to have a long-term career licensing my music. Difference between registering songs as an artist or a songwriter composer on BMI. Yeah, I know they have that difference when you register songs. Basically what that differentiation is for is, let's say that you were writing songs for an artist to actually perform. That would be what the differentiation is. So the artist is not necessarily the person that wrote the song or composed it. Let's say like you wrote a song for Britney Spears or something, right? So you're the composer, you're the songwriter, you created all the music, and Britney Spears actually is the one who sang it though, and she's the one that performs it. So there's going to be a split in the income earned, obviously, from somebody who's performing things, from the person that's songwriting, and all that kind of stuff. So that's why there's that little differentiation. In this industry, however, because I'm not really involved in that side for writing for artists, that's not really what I'm doing at all. We are just registering ourselves. Well, libraries typically are going to register our songs, and we're going to be the songwriter / composer. Okay, so there really is no artist associated with our songs. Sometimes you can do artists if there's a vocalist on your track. You can add that artist on there if they're the ones doing that, but you were the one that wrote the music and the lyrics rather, and the melody and that kind of thing. So that's the differentiation there. But basically what you're going to find in this industry is it's just you're going to be centering around that songwriter composer title. That's what you're going to be, and that's where your writer's share from your royalties is going to come from. So all right, let's see where we're at here. And I'm just looking at the questions here, guys, so I apologize if I'm kind of skipping through some of your questions. All right. Do libraries, agencies typically take on cover songs, or that's something that's better to take to the publishers of those compositions? Cover songs is honestly something I have not gotten a lot of experience in. I did a little bit of some cover songs for YouTube actually a few years back, where I would, you know, try to do a cover of a brand new song that got released. You know, I got a couple of sales here and there, but it didn't take off for me. As far as in the TV film world, the only thing that I've ever dealt with personally with cover songs is actually writing karaoke versions of popular songs, and that's actually something that I hadn't done before this year. This is the first time I had been asked to do something like that. So cover songs, I'm afraid I can't tell you too much about that. I know that they're very popular, and a lot of the reasons why they will go for those is because they're a lot cheaper than going to the original publisher, right, to license those. So if they can pay you a fraction of the cost to make a really cool cover version of the original song, they're probably going to be excited about doing something like that. Just personally, I've not had a lot of experience with people asking for cover versions of songs, so I wish I could tell you the process behind that, but I'm not really sure. Best site to share streaming links when pitching to libraries. I think SoundCloud's fine. I don't think anything's wrong with SoundCloud. The one thing I would say though is if you're going to send links to a library, don't send them massive amounts of tracks on one page. Like you've sent them to your SoundCloud page and they get there and there's like 30 songs to listen to. Don't overwhelm them. Just give them one link, right? So if you're going to give them a demo of like 4 or 5 of your hottest tracks, send them a link directly to that song. Or if it's like, hey, I have 3 different songs that are in 3 different genres I'd like you to check out, or however you're pitching, whoever you're pitching to, send them direct links to things. You don't want them digging. Definitely don't want to send them MP3s that they have to download to listen, that kind of thing. If you're unsolicited, they don't know who you are. They don't want to like take up hard drive space on that, and they also don't know who you are. So it's kind of risky downloading things from people that you don't know. Any advice for non-USA writers? It's a big question, Kevin. So you got to be a little more specific with what you mean by that. I do have a video that I would highly recommend you check out. in on my channel where I talk about non-U.S. citizens, foreign people joining BMI and ASCAP and working in the U.S. I have 2 videos actually about that, so check that. That's a good place to start, but you got to be a little more specific with your question, man. When pitching to libraries first time, better to send tracks to one library and wait a week to see if they're interested, or send same track to multiple exclusive libraries at once? You know, that's a good question, because you don't want to be sending available music to 4 or 5 different libraries, and let's say like 2 or 3 of them want that music. If you're going to be looking for exclusive ones, I think you got the right idea. You probably want to submit to one, give them a week or so, maybe 2 weeks at the most if you really want to be patient. If they're not getting back to you, yeah, move on to another one. At the same time, though, I would be maybe sending some tracks to non-exclusive libraries so that you can have a couple of other ones in your back pocket. You don't want to be too slow moving in this business where you're just like, okay, you send to one library, wait 2 weeks, go to another. You know, you want to have a couple of libraries you're submitting to at all times. So I'd maybe throw in some non-exclusive ones in there as well, so you're not just sitting on your thumbs waiting for things to happen. But yeah, that's a great idea, Burn, about probably just giving each exclusive library a week or 2 to bite. If they don't bite, okay, move on to the next one. That way you don't have multiple ones coming at you. You know, worst case, if you get 2 or 3 of them that are like, hey, we love these tracks, let's get working, you might be able to, like, maybe the one that you feel is a little bit stronger of a library, bigger of a library, you give them it. The other one you say, well, actually, you know, those ones are actually taken, spoken for, but I can obviously produce a lot more just like that right away for you if you like. It's not the best way to start a relationship, obviously, because you're kind of teasing them by saying this is available and then you're taking it away afterwards. You don't really want to do that. But, you know, I would actually just probably defer to your first idea, which is just give one at a time. So what would I do if I had a track with an exclusive library, and while writing a very different track for another library, you realize that they had identical melody motif? Well, you'd change it then. Yeah, I think that's what you'd have to do. If your tracks that you're writing for start sounding identical to something you've previously released, got to change it up, right? You don't want to be making cover versions, you know, of your own songs, because that could cause problems with the original library to say like, hey, Jesse, you know, you exclusively licensed this track with us, but we noticed you're signing this with this other library and it sounds just like this track. So we're kind of losing, you know, a little bit of our exclusivity and our value with our catalog here. So you want to change your melodies and your chord progressions enough so it sounds different enough. Is there a general standard length of track you would produce for TV, film, music? Yeah, generally, again, there's always exceptions to the rule, 2 to 3 minutes. That's what most libraries are going to ask for. Sometimes they'll say give us 1.5 minutes, maybe just give us over 60 seconds. Just depends, but I'm talking generally about approaching exclusive and non-exclusive libraries. They're going to want that 2 to 3 minute minimum. 3 minutes max, I think. Anything over 3 minutes doesn't seem to be that necessary. Maybe they'll give you the 2 to 4 minute window. Let's see. Joe, you just learned how to edit your first Sting 3015 that just got placed. Wow, it's awesome, man. Very cool. Glad to hear that. What are your must-have alt mixes that you have ready for every track? I actually wait for them to tell me what I need. Most libraries and supervisors, people that I work with, will always tell me, we want this, we want that. I can tell you basically the standards that most people are going to ask for. They're going to ask for a no lead, or they call it a narrative version, where you strip away all the lead high frequency instruments. So you're just going to be left with your bass, maybe your pianos, percussion, drums, that kind of thing. Also, maybe, well, whatever. That's pretty much for the no leads. Then you're going to probably want a drum and bass version only. So you're going to strip everything except for just the drums and bass. Sometimes they'll want a drone mix. So sometimes if you have a let's say a pad or a low pulsing bass melody or something, you'll want to just keep that in there, and it'll be, no drums, no leads, but it's just kind of this atmospheric mix that you can include. And they'll probably want a 30-second mix and a sting. Now, those are typically the standard ones that I get. After that, there are tons and tons of different ones. Some people will want maybe just a drum only, or if you have strings, they'll want just the strings. You call it like an orchestral mix. When we did in the Syndicate, we did the pop opportunity. I needed a lot of tropical elements in those songs, so I actually stripped a lot of the drums and everything from it, and I actually just included the tropical elements. So some of the tracks had just tropical alt mixes. So if there's ever like a tropical scene on an island somewhere and they want that, but they don't want the full production, they'll have that option. So as many different options as you can possibly give is the general idea, but a library will tell you, hey, submit us the full mix and, you know, this many alt mixes or versions or whatever. So all right, let me go back up here. So how do I handle new music that I made? Register it with your PRO and or copyright it. Watch my video on my channel about who creates a copyright. You got to learn about copyrights. And I've already answered that question. So you can watch this video again. I answered that about registering tracks before you submit them to the library. So let's see. If you were looking into producing trailer music, where would you look to get placements? Trailer music is highly specialized. Yeah, trailer music is not something that I'm intimately knowledgeable of. I had a subscriber actually that left me he sent me a long email saying that he does both. He says he does trailer music and he does just regular production music, and I actually wanted to get him to do a Skype interview, but he said English wasn't his first language and he'd feel a little embarrassed about it. So okay, it sucks, but he sent me a long email. I have to actually go read it still, but he had a lot of thoughts about that. Maybe I'll read that, try to get a little bit more information from him, and upload a video at some point in the future. But yeah, trailer music, I know there are trailer houses, there are places that literally specialize in just putting together trailers for Hollywood films, and they have composers and libraries that they particularly work for. You'll find that as you go through, especially in my music library directory, there are certain libraries you can find that they'll have a lot of these trailers listed as their previous work that they've been doing, right? That's who their clients are. So that's probably where you'd get your start. There's some libraries that deal with that kind of stuff, others that don't. Personally, I just haven't gotten into that because, like I said, I think it's a very specialized thing that you have to just be a super beast at. And I think I could if I focused on it, but I don't know if my heart's really in trailer music. It's fun, but I kind of like the TV thing a little bit more. I think I have a lot more versatility. I can produce. That was actually another question I forgot to answer. I think how many genres did I produce in? I produce in almost everything. At this point, I have gotten to the point where I've produced in almost everything. You know, everything from hip hop to rock to a little bit of country here and there, very minimally, minimal orchestral music, that kind of thing. But I can say that my core is still pop, rock, and maybe some orchestral stuff. That's kind of where I'm centered around. I don't stray too far away from that. If I have to, if there's an opportunity, I'll do it. I've gotten to the point now where I've produced so many tracks. I mean, you look at my catalog, I have, I don't know, over 2,800 tracks. I mean, a lot of them are alt mixes, but I have a lot of music out there. I've been doing this for a while. I do recommend, though, if you're new in this business, stick with one or two genres. You don't want to become a master of all craft, of all trades, of all genres. You want to stick with the one or two ones that you're great at, and you probably know which ones you're really good at. So be honest with yourself. I know you might think that you can do everything, right? But just stick to the ones that you know you're great at. It's just going to be better to kind of get into a little niche for yourself so people know you as the go-to guy or girl for that particular genre. I'd say just stick with one or two of them. What are the genres that sell best? The stuff that you hear on the radio, honestly. Hip-hop, pop, rock. That stuff gets played all the time. Corporate music, though. Corporate music is really, really good, even though you won't hear a lot of corporate music on the radio. Corporate music gets a lot of placements. So if it sells to the public, music supervisors are going to want to put it in their TV shows. That's generally how it is. And if it's charting, right, top 40, they're going to want those kind of sounds because they're trendy sounds. They're current sounds that people like, current songs and styles that people are into in the public. So they're going to want to include those in their TV shows, movies, and commercials. Would a way to get more chances of placements if you compose that kind of music is to do a lot of orchestral cues? I'm not really sure about that question. Maybe I'm not reading it right. I don't understand that one. Is there a time where I would be open to selling or sharing some of my Logic song templates? It wouldn't do you any good because templates are nothing without all the sounds that are included with them. So if you have every single plugin that I have and every sample that I've ever downloaded, then yeah, you could use them, but those are going to be kind of worthless to you because you could get the template, but then it's like, hey, I don't have that bass plugin, I don't have that drum, I don't have this. So you got to realize templates, what they really are is a sort of cataloging of certain samples and plugins that I have essentially. So it's not something I'm looking into doing anytime soon. I mean, I'll consider it in the future, but it actually wouldn't do you that good without having all the samples and sounds that I have. So Netflix, Hulu, and all the other streaming networks, do they work through the same music libraries you work with, or is that a whole new dragon to slay in terms of new relationships? Yeah, they do the same thing. So Netflix, Hulu, all those guys, they'll actually have relationships with music libraries. So I've had both situations where, you know, you got to realize a lot of what Netflix, I mean, their original programming, yes, those are the ones where you're not going to see those shows like aired on cable or on the free networks. But a lot of the stuff that I get on Netflix and Hulu and all that kind of stuff is shows that were originally placed on TV, and then Netflix and Hulu obviously start streaming them on their sites. So you're obviously going to be getting the royalties from the TV shows and the TV placements, and then you're also going to get the royalties from the streaming when people actually go online and watch those things. So, but as far as the original, yes, I've actually had, there was a gig I had, I think it was last year, taking a stab, I didn't get it, but it was taking a stab at writing a theme song for an Amazon TV show, original show that they were putting together. So it's the same deal. Like, they got budgets, like they're ready to license the music. They want original, great, high quality music, exclusive music, custom cues, that kind of thing. So it's a whole new industry that's blossoming and opening up that didn't exist before. So I know that the royalties right now are laughable and they're not that high for the streaming sites. But I tend to be an optimist with these kind of things, and I know that those royalties will increase as advertising money pours more into that and more people start watching that. Also, I had a secondary thought to that thing. It's just a new industry, right? That wasn't there before. We didn't have these streaming sites 5-10 years ago, right? So this is going to be new income for all of us. You had a placement with MTV, then the library company asked me for a yearly fee to continue to work with them. Is that a common practice? I don't know what they're charging you for. So I'm guessing they're charging you to submit to their opportunities. So a lot of companies do that. Again, you can, you know, as long as you're making more money in the end than you're paying into the company, then obviously it'd be something that I would keep paying because it's obviously paying you dividends. If you're getting one placement that didn't earn you that much and they keep asking you for fees, you got to decide, is it worth it to you? You know, are they providing you feedback? Are they giving you some sort of guidance in the industry? Or are they just sort of taking your tracks, taking your fees, and you're not getting the placements, and then they go, okay, thank you. You didn't get it, but go ahead and give us more fees, and we'll keep taking your submissions. So you got to decide, you know, is it worth, are you getting dividends from it? Not necessarily always in just money, but like, are you feeling like you're getting closer to making licensable music, being a part of that program or that company? You just got your first cue into a non-exclusive library through their submission page. Should you keep submitting through the submissions page or get to know the library owner by emailing them? My question would be, have you not talked to them already? So how did you know that you got accepted? Did they send you an email, or was it just sort of like a template thing that said, great, we accept your music? And also, are they doing that with everybody that submits music to their company? So if you didn't get a little bit of a personal touch, like, you know, I'm definitely assuming you didn't get a phone call, but if you didn't get like an email that was like written by somebody that worked at the company, you know, maybe you're not going to be getting the personal touch you need to with this company. But again, your first company you get accepted by, it's not going to probably be the most lucrative, amazing opportunity you ever come across in this industry. In fact, I can guarantee it won't be. But hey, it's a start. And so if this is a library and they can get placements and they're taking your music and maybe you start seeing some traction with them, you know, everybody's got to get started with someone, okay? So don't always just hold out for, well, no, I have to go to the, you know, top of the top, and I have to go to the library that's getting the major A-list blockbuster movie placements. Like, chances are, right out of the gate, you're probably not going to land there, okay? You might have to work your way up to that point. You might have to keep working on your tracks a little bit more before you get accepted by a much larger company. But you definitely want to go with companies that give you more of a personal touch, not just the cattle call. Thank you for your submissions. You've all been accepted no matter what, right? You don't want that kind of situation long term. All right, let's see. Your catalog consists of a lot of songs. What is the most useful to pitch to libraries? Should I stay with instrumentals or pitch some strong songs? You should probably pitch both. If you have strong songs that have lyrics on them, just be open to the fact that maybe they're going to want both, right? So you submit both, but you also, in your submission, in your email, you probably want to let them know, like, by the way, I know these are songs and they have vocals and lyrics on them, but I'm more than willing to take those off and I can give you the instrumentals as well if you want them. You're going to have to do that no matter who you submit them to. So if your vocals are high quality and they sound great, why wouldn't you throw those on there? There's a lot of libraries that want high quality vocal music. Now, again, kind of like trailer music, when you start putting vocals on songs, like, you know, the pitch better be on, super on point. Rhythmically, they better be on. They better be mixed properly, pitch wise, right? Everything needs to be very, very, very well polished and high quality. Vocals that are rough, that aren't quite there, that they don't shine as well as they can, are going to get passed over. And maybe they'll be interested in the instrumental version, but not so much the vocals. So vocals are, we haven't even really done any vocal stuff with the Syndicate stuff yet. We've been just doing instrumentals, because vocals is just, it's another level. Again, you got to be really careful. And if you've got a strong vocalist that you can work with, like a vocalist that just nails it, you don't have to do too much pitch correction and too much timing correction or anything like that, hang on to them with both hands. Pay them well, pay them great rates, day rates, if they're just going to come in and perform for you. Or if they write, like, you know, be generous, share your writers with them, because hanging on to high quality vocalists is such a rare thing. When I've gotten my hands on a couple of them, they are, I hang on to them with both hands. So don't take high quality vocalists for granted, because there's not a lot of great vocalists out there, honestly. There's a lot of people who can sing, but people who can perform and deliver for you consistently and be professional and not be late or flaky or be kind of artsy or whatever that a lot of artists and vocalists can be, man, hang on to them, because they're a godsend. You just made a LLC for yourself effective yesterday. You wanted to incorporate this into your licensing career to protect yourself better. So when you get tracks registered, is it under the LLC or my real name? So when you say registered, I'm thinking you're talking about you're talking about BMI or ASCAP. That's a good question. So when you talk about registered as a writer, I'd have to double check this. I don't believe you can register as an LLC as a writer. I might be wrong about that. I have to double check that. So I'll put a note on that and make sure I get back to you on that one. But I believe as a writer, you have to register with your real government name. Now, if you're obviously going to start a production company or a publishing company, obviously you can create an LLC for that. You're going to have a company name for that. But as a writer, I think you have to create, you have to use your real legal name that's on your, you know, your tax ID, your social security, all that kind of stuff. But I'm not sure. I have to double check on that. Should you start a track with a swoosh, or is that typically added by a TV editor? It depends. If the track, you know, asks for a swoosh or a little sound effect to come into it, totally fine. There's tracks, plenty of tracks I have a sound effect that kind of starts it off, you know, a reverse sound effect or a reverse cymbal swell, and then the track starts. So definitely, if it's appropriate for what you're doing, you should definitely do it. If a TV editor needs to do that, they have their sound effects. They can do that as well. If you write mostly in the crime, drama, dramedy, or EDM, should you stick with those styles or develop further and change as you go? With those styles right there, crime, drama, dramedy, or EDM, that's a lot of stuff, dude, to put on your to put in your catalog. So I don't think you need to spread out much further than that. That should keep you pretty busy with what you're doing. Obviously, if you're not getting enough work and enough placements with the catalogs or the libraries and the companies you're working with now, maybe you want to branch out. But man, but those four, crime, drama, dramedy, and EDM, that's a lot. That's essentially four different. I mean, I know that they're kind of intermingled a little bit, but you should be able to get a lot of work with those genres right there. How many tracks do I recommend you should have in a particular genre ready to be licensed before pitching to a library? You should probably have at least 2 to 3 high quality ones just to showcase, here's what I can do. I think it actually is even a stronger pitch to have a full 6, maybe even a full 10 or 12, to have a full album ready to go, to say, hey, all you got to do is slap your company logo on it and it's a full, you know, album ready to go. Because think about it, put yourself in the shoes of a library. You got 2 writers coming to you. One of them has a full album done, 12 songs. It's already got a concept for it. They've already got the whole thing mapped out. Excuse me. And the other writer who has 2 or 3 songs, high quality, but they're not done yet. And they're saying, hey, I could finish the rest of these songs out if you guys want to start a contract with me. Which one of those looks more inviting? If you're the music library, you're going to go with the one that's done. You're like, cool, done. We just slap our logo on it, our artwork on it. Let's put some metadata on this thing. Let's put this puppy up on our our online catalog, and they're good to go. So just always keep in mind what is in it. Think about it from the point of view of the music library. What's going to be more lucrative and enticing to them? But definitely, I'd say at least 2 or 3. Jesse, I made, let's see, I made rock music for Fox Sports. Yes, I did quite a few. Was that a guitar emulated plugin, or was that the real guitar? Real guitar, but I used I think it was just a Logic Pro guitar amp that came with Logic Pro that I did for the actual distortion. I'm not sure. Maybe I did maybe I did something else. I'm not really sure. I think I'm still all on. I just saw a little glitch there. Anyways, if you guys don't see me or whatever, just let me know. Yeah, so that was an emulated plugin, but it was a real guitar. I really play guitar, so I plug in. So Joe, you just started a month ago and you signed a deal for 10 cues in the same general style for a hit reality show. He asked for 3 specific feels. I'm going to do about 3 tracks each style. Should each cue have my main musical idea with variations to edit, but all also have a really minimal bridge B section? Is it okay to do each 2 cue as a few musical variations? I would say have each one have the sort of like probably 3 chunks in it. So you probably want to have a minimal section that doesn't have a lot going on. Maybe you could start it off that way. Or you start off with kind of like a grooving part, right? It's not like huge and massive. It's not the big epic chorus section, but it's grooving. And then you want to break things down into almost nothing, build it back up into a big, high impact section essentially. So within each cue, you want to give them probably 3 different feels, right? So it's the same emotional style, right? Whatever it is, maybe it's tension, maybe it's anticipation, or it's whatever it is, but you give them the sort of strip down where it just has a pad, a few things going on, break it down into almost nothing, build it up into kind of a grooving section with some percussion and maybe a low kick or something, and then monumentally build it up into the big epic chorus with pounding drums and all that kind of stuff. So you want to give them like those variations within a cue, but you don't want to like go into too many different worlds within one cue. So hopefully I'm answering your question there. Already talked about Song Trader. Hitcher, don't know about Hitcher. I don't know what that is. Never heard of that. Do I use TuneSet? Personally, I don't, but the companies that I've submitted to do. So they use them to go track down placements and all that kind of stuff. But personally, no, I have not signed up with them. Would I consider releasing a download tutorial course on doing hybrid tracks outside of the membership? Yeah, that's an interesting idea. I never really thought about that. I've done a few hybrid tracks and a few different styles. So, I mean, I could teach you guys, if I were to do something like that, I could teach you the specific kind of hybrids that I'm able to pull off, but I would probably need to pull in a couple of different composers that can do, kind of a wider range of different styles of hybrids. So, I'll make a note of that. I'll think about that for the future. Leslie G, thanks for that idea. I'll think about that. What about custom sounds? Do I find that it's enough to use most commonly used plugins, or should you spend time on custom sounds? Definitely take the time to customize your plugins or your samples or whatever it is that you're using. There's a lot of, one of the biggest problems, and I made this video, I think about a month ago, about one of the *1 reason why your tracks probably aren't as good as they could be, is the samples and sounds you're using are just really generic. They sound like they just came from the presets of your synthesizers that you're using. So take the time to get under the hood and tweak and dial all those little parameters that you can choose with your sounds and samples. Personally, I'm a huge fan of Splice.com. They have almost every sound you could possibly want and need. For the most part, when I use Splice samples, I don't have to do a lot of customization. I just love the presets. I love the drums. I love the shakers. I love the sound effects. Everything just sounds awesome. And there's such a wide variety of stuff there that I definitely would go take a look at what's going on with Splice. $8 a month. I don't get a dime for recommending them. I just probably should start asking for it because I say it all the time. But go to Splice.com, $8 a month. They give you 100 samples a month. I'm recommending it again because I use it. I go to it pretty much almost every day when I'm producing music. This week's assignment. Yeah, I kind of talked about I have a homework assignment right now in the syndicate where I'm asking for a sleek, futuristic, sophisticated, elegant, and stylish. Can I reference these emotions? I was thinking a sleek car commercial. Yeah, I'm kind of keeping it a little bit vague right now. I'm not going to try to get too specific into what I want you guys to be doing for that one. Now, the reason for that is because it's frustrating, maybe, I know, because you're thinking, I just want to know exactly what is he talking about. I don't really know. I mean, sometimes when you're working with a client, and one of my current syndicate members can tell you this right now, he got a very vague brief. It was like actually a 2-word brief when he first got offered the gig. And it was like, what the hell does that mean? I don't even know what that means. Sometimes you'll get kind of vague. This is fairly specific compared to some briefs you might get. So I'm kind of walking you guys through a process where it might feel a little frustrating right now, but give it a shot. It's going to be fun. I promise it'll be fun. Give it a shot if you're in the syndicate. Upload your tracks to the post. So I can do a review for you next week. And then I'm going to go through and I'm going to show you if you got close to it, if you didn't get close to it, kind of what we're really going for by using these kind of adjectives, how I'm describing this one. This is kind of a training process. This is something that's going to kind of start retraining the way that you think about music and how you produce music. And that's really what we're doing in the group, is kind of retraining and tooling how you guys approach this industry. So Chris, you use Songtreader to put your side catalog in. They have a great feature to generate playlists and to be able to meta tag things efficiently. So far, so good. We shall see. Yeah, man. Let me know. You know, if you start seeing some great placements with them and you see some great stuff happening, please don't be shy about it. Let me know. I love knowing from you guys what's going on out there with some of these companies. I just don't work with them personally, just because the relationships that I'm working with, they're keeping me fed and I'm getting placements and stuff. So I haven't gone to these other kind of newer companies that have come out in the last couple of years. At any point in my career, did I feel that I was sacrificing originality in order to compose music that others wanted? Or how did I incorporate music into the music you make? So, yeah, it's a good question, but I've never felt that way, even though that's exactly what I do, like pretty much for a living, is I have to kind of silence the inner artist in me that's like, no, I want to make music that I want to make, and what they want is not really what I want to do. And there is always that battle happening inside. But I think now, as I've been in this industry for so long, that I love making music that people like and that's useful to them. Okay, so there's a difference between making music that you just want to make for your originality, for your own, for your soul. Let's just shorthand it and call it music for your soul, essentially. I still do that. I will take time away from this industry, away from everything else, and I will just make music that I don't even upload online, or maybe I do, but I just share it with my friends and family, or maybe it's just for me. And that is for me, right? That's my soul music time. That's my time to be as original and creative as I want to be. I don't have to follow any formats. I don't have to fit into any particular genre. I can just try things out and be creative. It's kind of like being in the sandbox and just having fun. When it comes down to making a living, right? I got bills to pay. This is now my career. I don't get to have that luxury of deciding where I get to be creative and how I get to put my originality in this kind of thing. My first priority is always satisfying a client, okay? So if they want a song that sounds like somebody else's track, that's where I'm going. Now, again, that's why I've always said this industry is not for all artists and all producers, because some of you actually might just hear me say that and go, ugh, you might just throw up a little bit in your mouth. You might actually really be turned off by that, thinking that you actually have to kind of pause your own creativity, your own originality, and emulate another song or another composer more. I don't personally feel that way. I actually get excited by doing that because I'm learning from some other producer and some other composer and some other approach. And it's kind of just making me a more well-rounded producer. And I think it's fun. There's something about having, and you guys have probably felt this way when you have no restrictions, right? This is kind of an old cliche, but it's definitely true. When you have no restrictions on you and you have ultimate freedom to be as creative as you want, a lot of times you never finish it. Because there's no deadlines on you. You don't have any sort of restrictions that you have to work around. But when you start getting like confinements, right, where you have to sound like this, you have to use these kind of elements, it needs to be 2 to 3 minutes long, we need to include these elements. You start getting these restrictions. That's actually when a lot of real awesome creativity starts to actually blossom and things get done, right? You start finishing tracks, you hit the bounce button, right? And if you're not hitting bounce on your tracks, you're starting them and not finishing them and going to the next one, you're not going to be a professional. So if you want to really go for the place where you can just be creative ultimately and just do whatever you want, this is not the channel for you. Okay, I can't tell you how to be creative and express yourself creatively as an artist and truly express your soul. Okay, there is no YouTube channel for that. That's just for you. You got to do that in the best way that you see fit. You can put your own music out there originally alongside the TV film world. That's what I've been trying to stress to everybody. Excuse me, my throat's killing me here. You don't have to do 100% TV film music licensing. I primarily do. I'd say it's like 98%. I do a kind of some original music here and there. I might do a project, mix somebody's song or something like that. But I don't do that stuff that often. But if you have this burning desire to share your creative, original music, your artist music with the world, keep doing it. Keep throwing it out there on social media. Keep getting your fan base. Keep doing that. On the side, when you go into the TV film world, you should turn, it's almost like you got to put a different hat on, right? Take the artist hat off, and now you're sort of a serviceman. You're kind of almost like a janitor in this industry, right? It's kind of funny to think about it, but you're here to service somebody's needs, right? You're there to go fix the plumbing, take out the trash. So it's just a completely different mindset when you're over on this side of the industry. But I have found from, in my experience, the producers who have this attitude, who have humbled themselves to be able to just serve the needs of somebody else, end up doing it full time. The people that can't get out of their own way and they're very stubborn and they want to do things their way and they feel like they're selling out every time they serve the needs of somebody else. They make great, awesome music, but it's just a hobby. It's just something they do for fun, and then they're stuck for their day job doing things they don't want to do. So I don't want to judge either way. You got to make your own path moving forward in life. But I'm just telling you, if you can't develop this service mindset, chances of you becoming the next, artist that blows up and gets super successful and, just gets a record deal, gets a publishing deal and tours the world, so infinitesimally small. Chances are very small that that's happening. But I hope you're just enjoying it for yourself and you just like making music. So I'm rambling right now. I'm just going to move on. I apologize, guys. So as far as taking cleared samples, you can't just take samples from a link that someone has posted on Reddit. Yes, definitely wouldn't do that. You should have a licensing agreement if you're going to be using, especially, sound effects, drums, those kind of things are not really so much of a worry because unless it's a drum loop, right? That's the caveat there. If you're using a drum loop and it's a very recognizable hip hop loop or something like that, yeah, you're going to be careful about that. But a kick sound, a snare, a reverse crash cymbal, that kind of thing, those things are, whatever. I mean, unless it's a very recognizable sample from some very well-known song, that's not something that I'd worry too much about. But vocal samples, 100%. You shouldn't be going to some free website or maybe Reddit where people are just posting things, because these are just amateur people that might have just sampled a whole bunch of copyrighted songs, giving it to you. And guess what? They're not going to get in trouble if this stuff gets taken down and gets flagged. You will. You'll be the one that gets blacklisted. So the person who sent me the link assured me that this is what the pros do, even though it's some random guy on the internet. You're the only professional I know, and you don't use random samples. Yes, so there you go. There's some guy on Reddit telling you this is what the pros do. Come on. Yeah, I wouldn't take that as useful advice at all. Since I mentioned Splice, do music libraries shy away from submissions that use samples in music that are royalty-free? No, I mean, I don't know if you know of anybody who's making music with samples who are not using samples that are royalty-free. Royalty-free samples are kind of what most of the music industry is people that put together sound packs, right? Drum packs, sound effects, synths and presets and all that kind of stuff. All of that's considered royalty free because you're not paying royalties to use it, right? You've paid your upfront fee to use them. You want to make sure though that you're cleared to use them commercially. Obviously, we're just talking about that. You don't want to take it from some guy randomly on a blog somewhere on Reddit. You want to actually go to a established website that's been around for a while, and they've got the end user license agreements on there. So, you're pretty good at songwriting, composing, but how do you go by making it broadcasting quality? Seems to be another skill. Yeah, it depends. I mean, I haven't heard your music, so I don't know how far off you are. But I mean, self-promote myself. I created a whole course called the Mixing and Mastering, or Producing and Mixing and Mastering course, which basically talks extensively about all that. It's actually over 12 hours worth of video to do that. So that's such a big question. I can't really answer it here. So cool. It looks like we've gotten to the end of our questions. I think I've caught up. So I'll hang out for just a minute or two here more. I think we've been going for about an hour or maybe even a little bit more. Let me see how long we've been going. I can't actually tell. Yeah, I just running up to about an hour here. So my voice is kind of giving out on me, guys, because I did the other video. In fact, while I'm waiting for more questions, I'm going to start uploading the other review video because I have just shot and it's exported the review video for the syndicate. So you members actually will get that in just a little bit. So let me get that uploaded here while I wait for your guys' questions. Let's see where it is. Review number 5. This is going to take a while. These are long videos. I think this one was at least an hour and a half. So you're welcome for the answers. Glad you guys are liking it. In terms of mixing and mastering, you're using reference tracks. That helps you a lot. Awesome. Reference your way through this industry. It's going to save your life for sure. Do we also use reference tracks? You better believe it all the time. Drum samples are mainly unlikely to be flagged. Yeah, like if you're like when you say drum samples, I'm talking about like a kick sample and a snare sample and a hi-hat sample. Yeah, those. How many times have people used the same kicks, the same snares? That stuff gets used all over the place. That's not something I would worry too much about. I was just saying more of a drum loop. So this is horribly bad in it's a huge problem in the hip hop world. People will use like a Dr. Dre beat and it's the full 4 bars or something, and then they put their own music on top of it. But it's so recognizable as a Dr. Dre beat. That's the stuff you don't want to do. Or a Timbaland beat. You can really hear a Timbaland beat right away. You want to stay away from loops that are potentially copyright infringement. So prior to working with me, you've been mainly writing songs and lyrics. Keep writing at least 2 songs per week. Yeah. Which genres to work with? Again, I always say stick with the genres you know best, that you think you produce well in. Probably stay with 1 or 2 of them. If you do 8 different genres, I know it might be tricky to think about yourself as just doing 1 or 2, but you probably know right now which one is your best one, right? If you just top of your head, what's the one that you know you're the best at, that your quality is the best at, you know you're more comfortable with, what is it? That's the one you should go with at least first, and then go to number 2 second after that. Did I ever get hit back on the Warner Brothers thing? Oh yeah, the scam thing that came out. No man, I don't know who that was. All I can do at that point is just send out emails and warn you guys. I appreciate. I forgot you were the one that sent me that, man. Thanks for letting me know. But no, man, I just wanted to let everybody know. Be on the lookout. There are a lot of scammers out there, and you can kind of see the signs fairly easy. That was kind of a funny video, just how obvious the signs of a scam were on that one. But yeah, just keep your head up and look for those things when they come around. How does my income get taxed? Do you keep a percentage back until the end of the year or pay it off? Is it taxed before the end comes to you? Oh, that's a great question. Yeah, so for income, yes, you're going to need to make sure you hold some back because you get taxes for your writer's income. At least you get taxed as a 1099 person. So they're not withholding your taxes, BMI or ASCAP. So at the end of the year, there's a pretty large tax bill that hits you, around that April 15th date the following year. So yeah, you're going to have to make sure you store your income, store a little nest egg away so that when that tax season comes, you make sure you can hit it. Obviously, there's payments. You can make payments with the IRS if you need to, but I like to just pay everything off. So yes, you're going to have to, if you have to scale down your living expenses a little bit for the first year or 2 years, obviously, to make sure that you can hit that tax payoff. But yes, if you're not used to being 1099 self-employed, welcome to this new weird world where you're making all this money throughout the year, you get all these royalties and you're excited, and then comes this tax year. Normally when you were an employee, you got your refund back, right? You turned in your W-2 forms or your W-4 forms or whatever, and you got your refund. But now 1099, nothing's been taken out, so you owe, right? So you don't get your refunds. So it kind of sucks, so just be aware of that. Yeah, you do need to save up for that. What do I use to make my videos? I'm streaming with OBS right now with just the webcam. I have a Logitech 1080 webcam, which doesn't broadcast in 1080 though. And that might be something because I'm not familiar with what I'm doing. But I'm broadcasting at 720 20 at 60 frames, it looks like. So, but yeah, so I'm just using a free software. When I make my videos though with the screen capturing and stuff like that, that's actually with what is this thing called? Camtasia 3. You want a crash course in sync music legal jargon. Where do you go? Well, my master course has a video on that, week 6, and my master course is all about legal terms and making sure that it's simplified for you. So that's why I created that master course, is to teach you guys about that kind of stuff. As far other than that, you could probably do like a a Google search, type in music sync terms or music licensing terminology. Somebody might have created some sort of a I don't know, maybe a cheat sheet out there that kind of talks to you about that. Maybe I should make one, actually. That's a good idea. But there's a lot of stuff when it comes down to legal stuff, and that's why I made a whole video about it in my master course, to make sure you guys understood where I'm coming from with all that. You do rock and hip hop very well. Is that too much of a contrast? No, not at all. You can do both, but you better do both really well. I don't know many producers that can do both very good. Typically, if you're great at hip-hop, you're kind of good at the hip-hop urban dance world. If you do rock, you're kind of great at the rock, maybe orchestral, sort of cinematic world. People that can jump in between both of those, I'm skeptical. I'm sure it can be done, but those are very far apart. So really just kind of weigh yourself on which one are you better at, which one is really easy for you to knock out. What kind of monitors? I have Adams A7s. I have a whole mix, a whole setup with them. I love it. They're very accurate. They don't color anything. They're clear. And I've just been mixing with them for so long now. I know what they are. I know if there's low end missing. I know if there's high end missing. My ears are so tuned to them well. Syndicate members will tell you that when I give feedback, like I know exactly what's going on in your mix. And I can kind of be very clear about pinpointing what you need to fix in your mix. And that's just because I've worked with these speakers for so long. But whatever you use, just make sure you get to know them very well. Yeah, Chris has a good point. You can also pay quarterly estimates to the IRS if you don't want to do it all at once. That's definitely another thing you can do, so you don't have that big tax bill at the end of the year. So, do you itemize expenses and get money back on your businesses as a songwriter? So, yeah, it's kind of like you're not really... I get what you're saying as a songwriter, but basically I'm more of an independent contractor. It's kind of how the IRS sees me. They don't see me as a songwriter. So yes, and I can absolutely write off things like, you know, my home office. I can write off anything that I buy, equipment, you know, splice.com, stuff that I'm paying for my business. Yes, anything that I need to, internet connection, all that kind of stuff, because I'm sending music to libraries in my contacts. So all the business expenses that go along with making music, it's a business, right? You got to realize this is a professional business you're running here. So anything that you spend, you can obviously write off as part of your expenses for the year. How often do I do these webcasts? Is it routine? Is it random? Yeah, it's kind of random right now. I apologize for that, guys. I would like to do something a little bit more consistent. And right now it seems like every other Saturday is kind of what I'm doing. But it's hard because this business does not allow for a lot of consistency in my routine. I have some weeks where I have more free time and I can get on here and do a lot more of these. Other weeks I'm locked in making music, and that's what I was for the last couple of weeks. I had 8 tracks I had to do in a couple of days. I also have a lot of syndicate tracks that I'm mixing and mastering and getting ready for our opportunities. So I'm a little bit not able to do that right now. At some point in the future, I'd like to maybe start outsourcing some of those, the mixing and mastering for the syndicate. That's something that I can probably offload onto somebody else and, you know, pay them a little bit to do that kind of thing for me. That's something that I would like to get a little more away from. I can pay somebody else to do that kind of stuff. Because this is probably where I need to spend most of my time is, you know, on a webcam in front of you guys, obviously. But I'll work on those scenarios maybe come the new year. But for right now, it's kind of random. So that's why definitely, if you haven't subscribed, hit that subscribe button below. That's the best way to make sure that you get updated, because YouTube will send you direct links and notifications directly to your phone to let you know that I'm live right now. So make sure you like this, subscribe, all that good stuff. Do I recommend you getting a subwoofer in your studios? Yes, but it depends on where you live. I mean, if you're in an apartment, you're going to be making enemies out of all your neighbors. So is that going to cause problems for you when just putting on some headphones would work? You know, that's kind of one of the things you got to decide for yourself. I personally do think you got to have one or the other, though. You need to have something that you can hear the low end of your mix, because a lot of producers, they just don't hear the bass, and then basically they're mixing tracks and they don't have anything going on down there, or they have too much going on down there because they're not getting an active representation. So if you don't live in a place where you can kind of boom it out and, you know, you got some space from your neighbors, then just get some nice headphones that have low end frequencies on them, so you can really, at least once in a while, put those suckers on and see if you can hear what you're doing. So all right, guys, I'm going to log off now. So I think I've caught up with all your questions. Thank you so much for your questions. I hope you guys got a lot out of this. And again, lesson learned from all this stuff. No matter where you are, keep going, okay? You haven't gotten any responses yet from libraries, or you don't know where to get started or whatever, or you're not sure what's going on with your tracks, and you're not sure if you need to be stepping things up or whatever. Just keep going, okay? I want you to always be looking for how you can improve your production quality, your mixing, your mastering. If you're submitting to libraries and you haven't gotten the response that you want, or maybe much of a response at all, go find new libraries, okay? Keep persisting. The only ones that will succeed in this industry are the ones that are actually going to persist and keep their hustle up, okay? So I don't care how hard it feels in this particular part of your career. You've just gotten started. Maybe you've been at this for 6 months or a year, and you're still kind of spinning your wheels. You need to count your wins, right? Count your blessings, count the things that are going well for you. Look at don't forget to also, like, you know, keep track of how you're progressing, right? Look back at the tracks you had before you really knew what the hell you were doing in this business. Are your tracks getting better? Is the quality getting better? Are your tracks getting louder? Whatever it is, don't forget to count those wins and those victories, because those victories eventually stack up to the point where they turn into full-time income, right? That's how you do this, is you just stack up enough of these tiny little victories, these tiny little progressions, to the point where your music is such a high quality that it doesn't even resemble the tracks you had before you got started and you started learning this stuff. So keep at it, keep persisting. And thanks you guys for hanging out. It was a lot of fun. I'm going to rest my voice. I'm dying here. I've been talking for, I think, like 3 or 4 hours straight this morning, so you guys can probably hear it. So I'm out. Talk to you guys soon.